Hello and welcome. I'm Amritanshu Rai and you're watching Law of the Land on Raj Sabha TV. Today we bring to you the Citizenship Amendment Bill 2011, which seeks to rename the cards given out to foreigners of Indian origin with some changes. To discuss the issue, I have with me Mr. Dinesh Dwivedi, Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court of India, and Mr. Harris Biran, Advocate, Supreme Court. Now for the headlines. The bill seeks to give out new cards to foreigners of Indian origin in place of the existing Overseas Citizens of India card. The bill proposes to cancel registration of spouse married to Indian citizen if the marriage doesn't work out. And the new card will be known as Overseas Indian card and will be the closest to the concept of dual citizenship. The proposed Citizenship Amendment Bill 2011 allows foreign origin Indians to retain their Indian connection. The government had received complaints relating to confusion about people of Indian origin PIO card and Overseas Citizens of India OCI card. These were two different cards with two different rules. The government now seeks to merge the two and bring out one which will be known as Overseas Indian Cardholder OIC.
Foreigners married to Indians will not have to run around for their visas to visit or live in India. The government has decided to amend the Citizenship Act to extend special facility to foreigners married to Indians. Foreigners married for more than 2 years in their country of origin would be entitled to be registered as an Overseas Indian Cardholder (OIC).
But as far as an overseas citizen of India is concerned, the very terminology that it is an overseas citizen of India itself is a misnomer according to me. Because a person who is not a citizen of India cannot be a citizen of India because he went overseas or because he was of Indian origin.
The bill enlarges the categories of persons who are eligible for registration as Overseas Indian Cardholder. The bill proposes to include a person who is a great-grandchild of any person who was a citizen of India any time after the commencement of the Constitution. It also seeks to include a minor child if one of the parents is a citizen of India. It also makes eligible the spouse of an Indian citizen who has been married for at least 2 years before making the application for registration. The bill proposes that if a person renounces his Overseas Indian card, then his minor child will also cease to be an Overseas Indian card holder.
Any person who was married to a citizen of India or is married or will get married will have a right to get this card. This country has very low implementation in terms of how you document things. How will it be shown that a person is actually married or not married? Will we come down to taking affidavits from people and deciding these kind of applications on photographs of a marriage or a card that can be sort of printed at any printer for 10 rupees or 15 rupees. So the difficulty really is going to be, and the challenge is going to be in implementing something like this.
The eligibility for all registration as an Overseas Indian card holder is subject to prior scrutiny clearance from the competent authority in India. It also provided in the bill that no person who is or had been a citizen of Pakistan, Bangladesh or such any other country listed by central government shall be eligible for registration as an Overseas Indian card holder. The government has retained the power to restrict registrations on the ground of security and on national interest. The proposed Citizenship Amendment Bill not only tries to encourage the Indian industry by inviting foreign amounts in terms of OCI and NRIs, but also it addresses the most sensitive issue, which is trying to retain our old very good relationships that we have lost after the independence and before the independence. Now these families can meet and come and try to communicate with the older families without the permission and without visas. Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Government proposes to withdraw the existing name Overseas Citizens of India because it sent out the wrong message of granting citizenship to the card holders. My question to you, Mr. Dwivedi, is first question, implementation, the way it was brought up. Do you think it's going to be as easy as it's written down in the proposed bill?
I really don't think so. So it shouldn't be difficult because implementation nowadays of computerization shouldn't be much of a problem. And there won't be such a huge number of people who would be taken care of under this scheme. So I don't think that should be a big problem.
Okay. Now, the next question is of the prior scrutiny. This also has been addressed. But the big question remains that as far as the change of name is concerned, and the point you were making relating to making them eligible for citizenship of India after they've spent continuously 12 months' time. What was it that you wanted to do?
What I find missing here is, maybe I am wrong, but if you see the Section 5 of the Indian Citizenship Act, it permits overseas citizen of India to become a citizen through naturalization. But once this amendment comes, and now the overseas citizen is replaced by being called as overseas Indian cardholder. Now, until unless commensurate amendment is made in Section 5, they may not be entitled to citizenship through naturalization process under Section 5.
So, what you're saying is the new card, which is the overseas Indian card holder, will not be able to apply for registration of citizenship if the Section 5 is not suitably amended. Have you noticed anything of that kind, Mr. B?
See, according to me, since an overseas Indian card holder will be a citizen of another country, a foreign country, and since the Constitution under Article 9 have said anybody who has acquired the citizenship of a foreign country will denounce to be the citizen of India, the entire process by which this legislation is being brought forward, according to me, I don't know whether it will stand the test of law in an appropriate court, because it is watering down, according to me, the provisions of the Constitution. If the Constitution have said that anybody who has actually denounced the Indian citizenship and acquired the citizenship of a foreign country, then I don't think by this law or any other process, any other right could be conferred on them, which the right only the citizens of the country has.
Okay, so the point you're making is that you are trying to give them far more rights which could eventually be in conflict with what the citizens of India are getting.
Because as you rightly said in the beginning, this is the closest where you can actually have a dual citizenship by this amendment. So citizens have got various rights. Now, according to this amendment, they can have all the rights except for they can't hold the office of a constitutional functionary, and maybe they can't purchase agricultural land. That's the only thing. That's the only limitations they have. Otherwise, they have all the rights which a citizens normally has, Indian citizen normally have. Whereas Constitution has specifically said no citizenship to a person who has acquired foreign citizenship.
Yeah, you had.
I think there is something to be said on that account. If you see Article 11. Article 11 says that notwithstanding anything contained in the earlier provisions like Article 9, which my friend is referring, Mr. Harris, Parliament will still have a right to prescribe new acquisition modes of citizenship. So I think that problem which my friend perhaps visualizes may not arise because of Article 11.
What does Article 11 actually say?
Article 11 says notwithstanding anything contained in the earlier articles in that chapter.
Okay.
It will not take away anything from the power of the Parliament to provide for acquisition of citizenship. So I think Parliament can provide. Secondly, Article 9, according to my reading, I may be wrong, but tentatively, according to my reading, it means at the time when Section 5 was being implemented, that is before the commencement of the Constitution. Because Article 5 deals with a situation which is prevailing before the commencement of the Constitution.
Okay.
So Article 9 obviously uses the same phraseology, shall not be conferred the citizenship right. So which means if at that point of time, before the commencement of the Constitution, someone has acquired foreign citizenship, then he may not be eligible for.
On that note, it's time for us to head into a break. When we come back, we will talk about the disqualifications that the card sets up. Welcome back. The bill seeks to cancel the registration of any spouse of an Indian citizen if the marriage is dissolved by the court or the spouse has married any other person. Once these proposed amendments are approved by Parliament, then the new cards will be known as Overseas Indian Cards, and the earlier cards can be transferred to the new scheme.
The Overseas Citizens of India card (OCI) is the closest one can come to the concept of dual citizenship. If you are an OCI card holder, then you have lifelong visa to India, but not citizenship. The government seeks to replace Overseas Citizens of India card (OCI) with the Overseas Indian Card Holder (OIC).
The very term overseas citizen of India is being converted to overseas card holder of India, something of that sort. So that means that that very terminology citizen is being taken out of this overseas citizens aspect, which is very correct according to me, because the dual citizenship is not recognized by Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution says that if a person, even if of Indian origin, has acquired the citizenship of any foreign country, then he ceases to be a citizen of India.
Let's look at some of the advantages that an Overseas Indian Card Holder (OIC) will be able to get. OIC will be granted multiple entries lifelong visa. He or she will be exempted from registration with Foreign Regional Registration Officer. OIC will enable a person to stay in India for any length of time. It will entitle him to gently parity with non-resident Indians in respect of all facilities available to them except in acquisition of agricultural property.
We want the rights of our Indian farmers to be protected, their interests to be protected. We can't permit foreigners to come and then purchase big chunks of land and then go for this farming. That has, because जैसे वो कहते हैं हिंदी में कि भारत कृषि प्रधान देश है, तो our farmers can't be just deprived of all those basic things.
But the Overseas Indian Card Holder will not be entitled to contest in elections or be able to take up public position. The government has retained the right to cancel the card if it believes the registration was acquired by means of fraud, false representation, or the card holder has shown disaffection towards the Constitution of India. The card can also be cancelled if one is caught in engaging any commercial activity with the enemy country during war.
Certain things have to be restricted only to the citizens of India and the right to vote. Previously, you know, even those Indian citizens who are living abroad, say a person living in Dubai, they were not eligible to be even registered as voters in India. Very recently, last year, they have amended the law, whereby now at least they can be registered as Indian voters.
As of now, the registration fee for people of Indian origin PIO card is 15,000 rupees. The same card for minor will cost around 7,500 rupees. The registration fee for Overseas Citizens of India OCI card is $275. Once the bill becomes a law, there will be a uniform registration fee of $275 for applicants seeking Overseas Indian Card Holder. Considering the financial situation of Indian citizens across the globe and the business models that they are adopting across the world is now attracting Indian government to invite them and start investing in India. These kind of investments will definitely give rise to Indian economic sector. India has issued 10 lakh Overseas Citizens of India OCI card till now, who will automatically be transferred to the new scheme. Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
The new card will enable the card holder to undertake short-term foreign travel before applying for Indian citizenship. My question is, now you have given him almost all rights, you've brought him to the brink of acquiring citizenship. If he feels that the investments in India have gone right, then a person who for 45, 50 years has been away from India but has recently acquired this card just needs to stay here for 12 months, make an application for citizenship, and then continues to be an international citizen, not take any voting rights from anywhere, and he's a free bird. So does it discourage an Indian citizen from remaining an Indian?
Question to me?
Yes.
See, that is, according to me, that is the that is the only positive factor which I can carve out from these amendments, because the investments can come into India freely. The OIC card holder, or the person of Indian origin who is residing abroad, can, without any hindrance or without looking for an Indian partner can straight away come and acquire land other than agricultural land, put his business, and be an Indian citizen for all practical purpose. That is the only. Otherwise, in the text also which you just mentioned, he can even have the right to vote if you go to that extent, because the only problem is that he can't contest elections. That is the only hindrance to them. Otherwise, he can even have the right to vote. I don't know how the law can go to that extent. A foreign citizen can vote in an Indian election. That is the way we have to put it. If the bill is to be viewed in that context.
Does it encourage Indian citizens? For example, if I'm a naturally born Indian citizen here in India, and if my son, I send him abroad, he acquires a citizenship of another country, and then he acquires this card. So effectively, his citizenship rights are protected. My rights of accumulating agriculture property remains. He gets all the benefits of free travel and Indian credentials, and everything is fine. Now, whenever he wants, he can transform that card into a citizenship. Do you see it as a disadvantage, or do you see it as an encouragement?
No, not at all. According to me, you see, this is fitting recognition of the changing realities internationally. We are moving towards the concept of global village for last more than a decade, in fact. And the way the technology is going ahead, I don't know, another next decade, it would be far more merged than what we have seen. If that is the economic reality, how long can you keep on segregating people like this? It's a very salutary gesture. You see, I would say befitting culmination of those Pravasi Bharati Sammelan. And it's nice, why not? If they have something to invest in our country, they'll be giving us something. They won't be taking out anything. And what if we even give them right to vote? What is wrong with that?
That's a very liberal point. Yeah. Mr. Harris Biran, my point is, does it discourage me? Because I, being an Indian citizen, I'm not getting any more rights beyond what I already have, and which doesn't really give me too much. Okay? Even if I can buy agricultural land, there is a limit to it. Even if I can vote, there are problems relating to me going and voting. Okay? So most of the cases, what happens is one is discouraged to go and vote because of the environment. So these are two aspects which anyway don't hold too much of equity in our land, does it? Now, if you're extending these rights to other citizens, overseas Indian citizens, now don't you see the Indian citizen going abroad and it being as an encouragement for Indian citizens to go abroad and do things abroad?
First of all, Indian citizens should not be discouraged for these factors, because law is not taking away any rights of the Indian citizens as such. It is giving additional rights to people who are of Indian origin who are residing abroad or who are citizens of another country. So that way, it's not taking away anything of the Indian citizens. But then, as you said, now people will think that I will also go and acquire a green card from America or be a citizen of a foreign country. I'll get the same rights. So why not? Why should I stick on to India? That may be a possible mentality of an Indian. They can go. They might go. There might be a brain drain sort of a thing that they can go abroad. But as you suggested, I don't think there will be any discouragement as such, because as I told you, there won't be anything which is being taken away from an Indian.
Right. Not being taken away. But definitely, do you see is that the entire enabling clauses as an encouragement for people to move out of this country and do things abroad?
That is not the objective of this.
But eventually, do you think this?
No, not at all. They'll move out provided there are business opportunities abroad. They moved out because of that. If you recall, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, and I don't know about my friend Harris, but we have that experience of brain drain, where good institutions in India were training people to go abroad and settle there. So we used to feel bad about it, really bad about it. Those people they take everything good from here and then they settle abroad and give it their best.
Abroad and still get the overseas Indian card holder rights.
The change in the economic climate, with the growth and development in our country, the situation is reversing gradually, and this is the fitting recognition of that changing reality. So what you are doing is essentially calling them back.
So world is a global village with no physical boundaries basically diminishing, and it's only the intellectual property which has to be.
So they'll get you investment, they'll get you money, which means money coming in would mean more employment here.
Okay. On that note, it's time for us to head into a break. When we come back, we'll show you an interview with former legal advisor of the Election Commission, Mr. K.J. Rao. Welcome back. My colleague Rajkamal Rao spoke to Mr. K.J. Rao, former legal advisor, Election Commission, and tried to get a perspective.
What is your overall take on the proposed amendments? Is these amendments going to change the overall scenario of the citizenship?
Definitely, I think that it is the act has been made liberal. It may increase the influx of foreigners into India in one way, because here even the spouses and other children, grandchildren, anybody having a link, they are being allowed without a visa into the country. Though I am not a constitutional or legal expert, I think the influx of foreigners would be more.
OCI holders, now they are giving an overseas citizen card holdership, which will enable them to come to India without visa, and they can do any kind of entrepreneurship activities. Is it in a sense to improve the economic situation, or is it quite common compared to other countries?
The problems the Election Commission faced in India so far as the citizenship, particularly Bangladesh and other neighboring countries, I think rather it should be tightened. Here it is you are going to liberalize it for purpose of economy of the country. If the economy is concerned, suppose the people of Indian origin, foreigners of Indian origin, at any time they can come to India and settle down here. Instead of giving them something, a benefit, you are allowing others also. You see, the economy may improve, but at the same time you are inviting some trouble also at the same time.
According to the bill, an applicant will be deemed to be ordinarily resident in India if he has resided in India throughout the period of 12 months, immediately before making an application for registration. This paves his way for citizenship, that now you've stayed here for 12 months, now you can make an application. So first you facilitate him, give him a card which enables him to come here, go out at whenever and whatever time he feels like. If he wants to come here and stay for 12 months, he does that, and once he stays for 12 months, then he is eligible to make an application for citizenship. One, the security aspect that Mr. K.J. Rao was talking of. Obviously, there will be a scrutiny of documents and things like that by the government, but do you see somewhere an element of security aspect?
There may be, because see, given the kind of system and the ingenuity, human ingenuity, see, you can never have a foolproof kind of a system, 100%. So there would always be people sneaking in, like, they've always been. But that should not be a big concern. As you said, the relevant documents, the profiles, everything would be there before the person is entertained. So it should be very difficult to spot out any odd kind of a person who may be a risk, security risk.
Mr. Biran, you want to add something to it?
This is on the implementation angle, implementation of these provisions. Implementation, as you said, because of these technological revolutions and computers and all, everybody will be profiled in the computer, everybody can be skilled in the computer, and it is very, very essential and important that the screening aspect and the implementation aspect has to be spot on, otherwise this will be misused.
Okay, the point you were making about the spouses, now that's a very humanitarian angle, as you were saying. So what is it and how does it actually help the wife, especially if the foreign wife married to an Indian citizen?
But I think there's a piecemeal way of looking at it. It helps otherwise also, where
the spouse,
Indian
the word,
citizen is a lady.
I get it.
She has a big investor husband.
Okay.
So it does benefit that
Enable
way.
that also.
But basically this is a human angle which has been sponsored by this, and I think it's holistic and it's good.
So largely it's a forward-looking legislation, and that is how it's good for everyone.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir, for joining us on this discussion. It's time for us to end the show. You can email your suggestions and comments to law.rstv@gmail.com. You can also watch our shows on the YouTube. We'll be back with a new issue and a new episode. Keep watching Raj Sabha TV.